GDLS Canada, an industry leader dedicated to supporting our customers and the community.
My name is Barry, not that it's Alfred. I really didn't have like a lacrosse nickname for some reason.
No.
Maybe I gave a lot out, but I never received one. Never received one back. The only thing later on, as my lacrosse playing career winds down, they just called me Coach. Because I ended up coaching for quite a few years after my lacrosse days playing was done. Yeah, I grew up here, played minor lacrosse here, whatever minor lacrosse we had at the time. I remember when we really didn't play in any leagues. We just made intramural teams. Played at an outdoor rink with gravel surface and, stick sweater, and that was about it. That's how we started. Well, I had an older brother who was like 10 years older than I am, and I guess growing up as a young kid, he played junior lacrosse, so it was just a natural thing that I watched him playing lacrosse, and he gave me one of his old sticks. And then just up the road from me, there was a bunch of neighborhood kids, and all of a sudden we're playing in the field. Started out that way, just pick up lacrosse, and it just evolved from there. Where all of a sudden teams are starting to be made, and because you had a little bit of a background, you were adapted to play on a team. Yeah, we played like Pee-wee, went from Pee-wee to midget, to juvenile, junior, senior. Our juvenile team, we did quite well. I think we lost in the Canadian Championships for the gold medal game back in '75, somewhere in that area, '74. It was actually hosted by a Quebec team, Rimouski, Quebec.
Oh, okay.
It was a very, very well-run tournament out there. Very impressed on. Actually, the best lacrosse floor I ever played on was in that tournament.
Is that right?
I never seen a floor since. They painted the floor because their colors were like the Fleur de Lis colors of Quebec. They were blue and white. They painted the whole floor like a Fleur de Lis blue, and the creases were all white, and it was a rubber paint. Way before turf even became this floor was already, 20 years ahead of its time.
So you could grip?
You could grip like crazy. It was amazing. It was amazing to play on that floor at that time. Yeah, especially like the mid-July game. Mid-July game. We went through that a lot of times. People out there wiping it down, trying to wipe it down. Played on some floors like that were even kind of like they had a shellac on it, and when it got humid, that thing just turned to almost like ice. Well, early on there was some local. I know his name he's not around now. His name was Peter Deere, who was like the recreational organizer for the community here in Kahnawake. Kind of all the sports, softball, whatever sports was available. He was kind of the director in that fashion, but he was also would coach too. He would organize the teams, and so early on it was somebody like him. And then later on, as we got a little bit older, actually Louis Delislel, who is a good friend of mine.
Yep.
Actually, my older brother, whose name was Louis, also was best friends with Louis. So as I was growing up, I knew, because he was always around, I knew him. He hung around with my brother and stuff like that. So he ended up coaching through my earlier years, through midget, juvenile, and early junior. It was Louis Delislel that was probably the coach that I played for.
Guided you.
Guided me, in a lot of different ways. Just not just lacrosse, but
Yeah.
in life ways too.
Yeah.
He was a teacher in the school system here, so he was used to dealing, I guess, with adolescents and kids growing up through their teens.
Yeah.
And I got to play with him at a certain point. But my older brother passed away when he was 17.
Oh boy.
He was in a tragic accident. So I never got to, possibly I could have played with him later on in his, probably the end of his career.
Yeah.
Because that's how it worked out with Louis. He was farther along at the end of his career when we actually got to play together. So I appreciate that I did get to play with him. Oh boy. Who was the stick maker? Well, I got in trouble about that. Because, like I mentioned earlier, my older brother was playing junior lacrosse at the time, and he had a tragic accident, and my mother and father had kept his stick. And I was always after, I need a stick. And I knew the stick was put away, and finally they said, well, here then. So they gave me his stick.
Wow.
And me not, I was maybe 9, 10 years old.
Yeah, you didn't know enough. Yeah.
The value of what it meant.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know where it ended up.
Oh.
Oh
boy, yeah. Yeah.
So that was kind of like my first real stick, because other than that, I would get these scrap sticks. Just here, use this one, use this one.
Yeah.
I really couldn't say who made that stick at that time. That was probably 69 maybe. After that, as I started taking more interest in what kind of stick I was using, Etienne, Matthew Etienne, who was in Kahnawake, and actually it was Louis Delislel who introduced us to Matthew Etienne. We used to go to his place and choose our sticks and stuff like that. So growing up, from what I remember, it was Matthew Etienne sticks that we played with most of the time. Being here in the East,
Yep.
there was, I know there's different stick makers right across Turtle Island, but he was here in the East, and it was very convenient for us to use the sticks he was making. I remember that one year he came out with a double, we called it a double knit. He used to make all
Wood
leather.
on both sides, or
No, but he used double nylon
Oh.
in there, and they were so easier to break in.
Oh,
Put
okay.
it that way, and we just loved them like that. So we all gravitated to these kind of sticks, because we grew up with just leather, right? You know how leather is.
Yep. Gets stiff.
It gets stiff. Your shot is not on at all times, depending on the leather.
Yep.
If it stretches and stuff like that. In my playing career, I just used actually plastic wasn't even people
Not
who had them. It
lacrosse,
was like they were criticized. Like, what are you doing? What's that? My whole career I used a wooden stick. I forget there was somebody last name of Powless in Six Nation was making sticks too.
Powless?
Yeah, one of the Powless brothers was making sticks too. I remember that, and there was
Logan's back then.
who was that?
Logan? You ever hear that name?
Logan?
Yeah, he was a Six Nations stick maker as well.
It could have been. I think there was actually somebody from Wawasesne also. I forget. I can't recall the name though, but there was somebody there too.
Yeah.
They specialized in goalie sticks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there was the Mitchell brothers. Maybe one of their relatives. I know the Mitchell brothers currently make sticks there in the island. it was one of the relatives. I'm pretty sure of that. I always, you know what, I admired Davy White. He was always in top condition, could run, you know, up and down the floor, and you could see that he had a feel across background how he played the game, and he played the game the right way. You know, you weren't gonna, you know, worry about if he was behind you. You weren't worried about how you might get hit or anything like that. You knew he just played the game the right way, and he was like a gentleman. He was a gentleman on the floor. That's one person that I really thought that, you know, if I want to teach somebody to play lacrosse the right way, it would probably be somebody like that. Let's see. I always liked Barry Powless's game.
Right.
I played against him. Both being Barry, we were like very competitive. What else can I say? No, he's not. That's not kind of in his repertoire.
Oh.
For me, you know, I played both ways, and if that had to happen, if we had to do something, well, then I was. I was capable.
You kept your ground. You kept your ground. Yeah.
I had a background in junior hockey and that, so I was really adept at what it's all about. Back then, well, we didn't have cages.
Right.
We didn't have plastic sticks, but there wasn't as much high sticking.
Right.
Because
people respected.
Because you know, if something happened, then we're gonna settle this.
Yeah.
You know, and today, I think they take a little bit more liberties. What gets me is the dangerous checks. You know, that's and I've coached and I've seen some checks that were really dangerous, even in today's game.
Near the boards when somebody gets hit from behind,
yeah,
like that kind of
that's
thing.
really scary for anything like to see that happen. So,
yeah.
But you know, the game has changed. It's a faster game. You know, probably for the better. I mean, I remember going as a kid. There was a player here from Kahnawake. He was called Big Al Jacobs, and he was big. But he would get the ball from his goalie and pretty much just walk up the floor.
Everybody left him alone.
Everybody just backed off, and you know, there goes Al. He's walking up the floor.
That's funny.
You know, so he lived up to the name, but that's how it was played, the game back then. You know, it wasn't as a fast as pace as it. And when he played, nobody was wearing any helmets.
Oh.
So that was like almost going back to the original six, how it was.
Yeah.
I have a late uncle. He passed away a while back. But like my father's family, they all play lacrosse. Like 7 brothers.
Yeah.
I have an uncle. His name is Jimmy. He's in the Hall of Fame currently now.
Yeah.
But this one, his nickname was Doc, and the story goes they were playing in the old Montreal Forum, and back then they played kind of like hockey, 2 defense, 3 forwards, and apparently Red Story, the legendary referee, was playing for I don't know if it was Sorel or one of the teams that were here. They were playing them, and Red came in on my late uncle Doc and went right around him and scored. So Doc gets to the bench and his coach is like ripping him up, like, you know. So Doc turns around and he was a real character. He says, "That will never happen again." Second period, Here comes Red Story with the ball. He's running towards my late uncle. He winds up, he gives him a two-hander right across the head.
Oh,
He drops him on the floor. A big thing ensued, and they threw him out. And he says to the coach, "I told you it will never happen again."
He didn't lie.
Yeah, he didn't lie, but he was quite the character. Funny as anything. Yes, Louis Delislel. He was about 1978 or 79. We went to Baie-Comeau, Quebec for the Founders Cup. We took a junior team there, and Louis Delislel was the coach. And we didn't fare too well in the preliminary round, and the end results was we weren't going to make it to the medal rounds. But we had a game the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. So there was a festival that night, or festivities. Let's put it that way, it happened. So everybody was a little bit under the weather the next morning to play the final game. So some players were, "Oh, I'm hurt, I can't play, this and that." So Louis, being 29 years old at the time, he was 10 years older than we are, he dressed as a player. And he played in the Founders Cup at 29 years old. And it was a little comical, like people didn't really matter. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't count for anything.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
But I remember that till this day, that he played junior at 29.
He never told me that one.
And in fact, we were kind of like not getting blown out, but it wasn't a close game. I volunteered to get in nets in the second period. So the goalie was in nets for the first period. Between periods, I said, "You get out." I said, "You play forward. I'm gonna get in nets."
Wow.
So I played the second period in nets, and I did well. I did quite well because they were shooting from far.
Yep. You saw it.
I saw it.
Yeah.
I stopped it. I picked it up. I ran a little bit out with it. Made my pass. Come third period,
This is easy.
They come third period, they started to give me some stick work, and I was hanging all over the crossbar.
You learn an appreciation for another position.
I've done that to my players in practice. Certain players that were kind of maybe not abusive, but really ripping it on the goalies.
Okay, see, yeah.
Next practice, you're getting in, and you're going to get a feel for what you're administering.
Does it work?
It does. And that's good for minor lacrosse. I would teach that to the coaches. Say, listen, if you got kids that are really ripping it on these goalies, have them get in one practice.
Yeah, see how they...
And see how they feel, so you get hit with the ball. But that's my little story. I played junior lacrosse with him. I might have when he some kind of like an old timer kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like him and Oliver Hill, and there's a player that he might have been at the end of his career. I think he scored like 7 goals on us. And he wasn't beating anybody one-on-one. He just could shoot the ball, like picking corners.
Pick the spot, huh?
It wasn't like a big hard shot. It was just like
Placed.
boom,
Placed.
top corner. Goalie's like, what? Went in. Oliver Hill, I remember him. He come from Onondaga.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the most prolific goal scorers I've ever seen.
Is that right, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What ended up happening for me, anyways, earlier when the Quebec Lacrosse, not Quebec Lacrosse, but the professional lacrosse league that had formed in 74, 75.
Yes. Yeah.
Travis I think he was playing for Philadelphia Wings. But that whole group of native players that were in the league, all funneled back into we had, at the time there was a Quebec Senior League.
Yeah.
And this was about 76, 77 that everybody came into the league. Travis and Ernie Mitchell and Bruce Roundpoint. There was a big contingent of players that played in the pro league came into the league. And I was only like 16, 17. Actually, they brought me up to play. I played senior when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19. And I was still playing like, both, whatever league I was playing in, whatever, juvenile, junior. But that was Lewis's doing. Louis Delislel. I played, and then Ernie Mitchell hung around for a long time, and I played against him like a lot. I kind of developed a kind of an underhand shot.
Okay.
And
did it raise from low to high?
Yes.
Which is tough to
yes.
track.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Ernie was like really frustrated. Because sometimes on a power play and you're playing on the point, you wind up and he's like,
he's looking low.
He doesn't know, he doesn't know where it's going to end up.
Yeah.
So he was always like, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. But you can't, because there's such a whip, it's almost like a golf swing, right? I think one of the game that stands out for me is, I think it was like 1988. We were in BC. We were playing in the President's Cup. And we were playing against Fergus and Thistles.
Yeah.
They had just dropped down from the Senior A division.
Okay.
For me, they had no business playing in the Senior B division in the President's Cup, but they managed. They got into the tournament. You could see they had a strong team.
Yeah.
And that game, I felt as myself that I would use that as a measuring stick to see
where you were,
where I was. And I had an outstanding game. I got player of the game.
Yeah.
Played both ends of the floor. I think I had about 3-4 goals. It was really, really a game that I really focused like no other, because that was the measuring stick that I wanted to see,
Yep. Playing against.
And it worked out that way that it was against them, against Fergus, as the opponent. They beat us.
Oh.
They beat us, but if I didn't have the kind of game, they probably might have blew us out.
Right.
So we ended up having like a 10-8 game or something.
Nice.
We were in the game the whole time.
Yeah.
But it was maybe I had 7-8 points of of our 8 goals. As coaching, I tried to instill some of those traits that I used to take to the floor myself. If there's me and you one-on-one and there's the net, well, I'm going to get to the net.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop me. I'm going to get to it. If they have to double me, then fine.
Yep.
But if it's just you, I'm taking you to the net. No matter what.
Yep.
And that's some of the stuff that the players today, they don't have that drive. They will wait for a pick, or they'll wait for something to clog everything up. That aspect of the game for me is a little bit lacking. That willpower to get to the net, or expect a teammate to come pick for you, and then you create a little 2-on-2 2-on-2.
Yeah.
That part is a little bit. They don't have that drive to take it to the net. I was kind of always a communicator when I was playing. Communicated with
quarterback out there.
Quarterback communicated even with the coaching staff. This is not working. We should try it this way.
Okay, you were thinking the game all the time then.
Yeah. This is not working. Power play. This play is not. This is what they're doing. We need to
adjust
this and try this. So when I started coaching, it was like knew what I wanted to do and what I needed to teach them, depending on the the talent level that you had in front of you, and the capabilities of what your players can and can't do.
Yeah.
I try not to ask them. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but try not to ask them to do more than what they're capable of doing. So it worked out pretty good because I would identify, all right, this player is not adapted to do this and that. He's more adapted in a certain. Some guys can run like anything, but how they view the game is totally different. I said there's one guy, he's a coach, and he would always say that I didn't see him. I said, well, because you had your what do you call it, Rocky Richard eyes on. You just seen the net.
Yes.
You were focused, going straight at the net. And coming from a background that I played both ends of the floor, it wasn't like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You were just putting the ball in that. I used to love to backhand. I loved taking backhand.
Did you know where it was going?
Not really.
So that was an advantage.
Not really. I mean, I had a general, and a lot of times, if you're the goalie, like we talked earlier about pivoting this way and shooting underhand. So if I pivot this way, I could be down low looking to shoot.
And he's ready for that down low, and then all of a sudden it's up opposite side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I utilize it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was like the coolest goal to score all the time.
It was cool.
I was taught early, perfect one way, be good at it, instead of being mediocre or half decent both ways. So I just said, okay, then I'm gonna be proficient shooting right-handed, and I'm not going to, because there was guys that I was playing with were trying it, and I'm looking at that's not working out.
Right.
I even knew one guy, he can shoot this way, but when he had to catch the ball, he had to catch it on this side.
Isn't that interesting?
So when he went to pass, he had to switch back.
It slowed him down.
I wish they had the nets the size they are right now when I play. That would really lit him up. Yeah, scored quite a few goals in this league. They were pretty decent goalies too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like to say, oh, you're choosing or playing against inferior competition. Ernie Mitchell, and we used to play against this one guy. His name was John Buck. I don't know if you ever heard him. He was from the Onondaga, Syracuse area, but he ended up in playing in Quebec League. He was close to 400 pounds.
Wow.
Everybody, and he was so big, and everybody was like, just. His head was like this.
Unfair. Penalty.
John Buck. I always remember him. John Buck. We even took him with us one year. We went to the President's Cup. We took him with us to pick up goalie. There's another player that he passed away now, but this John Buck was laying in his room. He's laying on his bed. It's like, this one player says, John's in his bed. He says, watch this. He ran in John's bed and did like a belly flat right on top of John on his belly. And he bounced off and he took off. This John's trying to get up. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The teaching aspect, well, obviously the competition too.
Yeah.
I mean, we went to a number of championships. We won league championships and then President's Cup and stuff like that. But the teaching aspect also was very, very enjoyable for me. What even made it, I guess, more so was that when I did stop coaching, a lot of the former players who were raising their own families now, I see them behind the bench coaching.
Yeah.
And it gave me great pride to say, I passed on some kind of legacy that, and that was very powerful for me when I see them. I gave back to the game.
Yep.
They're giving back to the game,
There you go.
and it came full circle.
Yep.
For the other part was very satisfying here at the time when I was playing and when I was coaching. We only had the one senior team, we had one junior team, and how it brought the community
Yes.
to the arena under one roof, under one goal, cheering for
Yeah.
the local lacrosse team.
Yeah.
Later on, another team formed, and there was two teams, and it got to be like the community got
Fractured.
fractured. And I didn't enjoy that part because
Right.
you had people that you known all your life because they had relatives on the other team were rooting against you, and you know them very well. And for me, the community was never big enough to have two teams like that, and how it fractured the community, it wasn't enjoyable. I had some discussions with certain individuals, and I said, look, some of the biggest lacrosse beds in Ontario, they don't carry two senior
Right.
teams like that to compete against each other.
No. Like
It's-
Peterborough and
yeah, it's not conducive to having a good fan base.
Yeah.
You're splitting your fan base, in fact. You're
Yes.
splitting your player pool. Well, the team I was involved in, it was well organized, and when a team's well organized and well, I'll say, coached, and everything is done the right way, you're going to come out ahead. And that's how it played out. We were always the dominant team. Traditionally, we played on a Saturday night as our home game. After the game, you can hear them talking, well, we're going here.
Yeah.
I would always come into the room and have a little 5-minute talk with them before.
Yeah.
And I would always end it before they left that, remember this before you leave. I said, you had that sweater on tonight. Don't think just because you took the sweater off that you still don't represent this organization
Exactly.
when you leave.
Yep.
So I would always leave them with that in mind. To a certain extent, we were kind of trouble-free, and and I told them, even when we finished, like I said, we were President's Cup, the end game. I said, it doesn't mean you got the green light from here to next spring. I said, you still gotta, you're viewed as part of the organization at all times.
Yes.
And that was one of the big difference when I told you about having two teams. The other team was the Wild Wild West.
Okay.
And that was a difference.
Yep. Yep.
And players gravitate who want to be in that that atmosphere,
Yeah.
and players who want to be in the other atmosphere, they gravitate there.
Yes.
And that was like the divide. For me, for this game, I took a lot from the game, and I made sure that I gave back to the game. I would hope that whoever takes up the game can have some kind of mentality to say, if I'm taking something, I got to replace something back. Whether it's in a voluntary role or it's a direct coaching or assistant coaching or whatever it may be, to give back to the game in some fashion.
Yes.
And that will make any organization and any team a lot stronger moving forward, whether it be in a minor system or all the way through the junior and senior divisions. And other than that, just the camaraderie that it promotes amongst your peers is something that you'll carry for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Even today, there's people I played with, I still meet with them, we're still good friends. Mm-hmm. I play golf, I meet with them, yeah. I play with some guys that I played lacrosse with all my life, and we play golf every weekend.
Yeah.
So it carries on for the rest of your life.
They're brothers.
Yeah.
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 And I would leave it with that it's going to take care of you for the rest of your life, the game.